It begins in the silence, in the space between someone's attempt to pull your strings and your own reaction. Most manipulation doesn't start with a grand scheme. It starts with a tremor, a flicker of an old wound, a ghost of a forgotten doubt. They push a button because they sense, they know, there is a button to push. Fear, insecurity. The desperate, clawing need to be seen as the provider, the protector, the hero, the unspoken terror of being inadequate. These are the levers, and for a long time they worked. Because we did not own the machinery. The journey to being unmanipulable does not start with learning to spot their tricks. It starts with learning to sit in the dark with yourself. It starts with emotional sovereignty. This is not the suppression of feeling. That is just another form of prison. I am not speaking of becoming stone. Stone can be worn down. I am speaking of becoming the deep, still water that reflects everything clearly and cannot be stirred by thrown rocks. You must conduct an audit of your own shadows. What, truly, are you afraid of? Is it being alone? Is it being perceived as weak? Is it the chaos of conflict or the heavier silence of disappointment? You must find these hidden charges within you and diffuse them, not by denying they exist, but by holding them in your own hands, in the light of your own reason, until they are no longer explosive devices waiting for a stranger's spark. When you know your own triggers intimately, they cease to be triggers. They become information. Data points about your own history, not prophecies of your future. This is the foundation, because every manipulation is a transaction. It offers to soothe that hidden fear, or it threatens to inflame it. Do this, or you will be rejected. Agree with me, and you will be admired. Carry this guilt, because it proves you care. If your sense of worth is a meter that others fill, through their praise, their affection, their obedience, then you have already given them the coin to operate you. You have made yourself a puppet of external validation. Sovereignty is the arduous process of building your own generator, of knowing in your spine what you are worth, irrespective of applause or accusation. It is looking at the metal and the mud, and understanding they stain the same skin. They are not you. When you achieve this, the theater of manipulation becomes just that, a performance. You see the anger that is not truly anger but a tool. You hear the tears that are not grief but a tactic. You detect the flattery that is not admiration but a down payment. It's not that you become cold to genuine human emotion. You become exquisitely sensitive to it, and therefore to the counterfeit. Real emotion has weight. It has texture. It flows from a source. A tool is light, hollow, and has a target. You learn to feel the difference in the air before a word is spoken. And in that moment of seeing, in that crucial, silent beat where the lever is pulled and nothing happens, your power is born. There is no outburst, no wounded debate, no frantic negotiation to prove your worth. There is just calm, a profound, unsettling stillness. The strings are still there, offered by the other hand, but they are no longer attached to anything inside you. They fall, useless, to the floor. This stillness is your new language. It communicates more than any roar ever could. It says, I am not afraid of your chaos. I am not soothed by your fiction. My weather is my own. This is the first and most important fortress. You build it not around you, but within you. And once it is complete, you realize it was never a fortress at all. It was simply you, finally at home in your own skin, unmoved because you cannot be moved from a place you have never truly left. The rest is simply building on ground that is finally solidly your own. Once you are no longer a creature of reaction, once your internal weather is your own, you face a new task. You must survey the land you now stand upon and decide where your lines are drawn. This is not an act of aggression. It is an act of definition. Without it, all your internal sovereignty is a kingdom with no borders, vulnerable to endless, draining skirmishes. This is the practice of the boundary, not the wall you hide behind, but the property line you calmly, clearly enforce. Most men confuse boundaries with threats. They wait until they are insulted, exhausted, betrayed, and then they explode. They deliver an ultimatum from a place of wounded fury. That is not a boundary. That is a consequence delivered too late from a place of weakness. It is the last, desperate slam of a door that should have been closed gently but firmly long ago. A true boundary is not erected in the heat of the moment. It is engineered in the cool silence of your own clarity. It is a preconsidered, non-negotiable standard of how you will allow yourself to be treated. It is not about controlling the other person. It is about controlling your own presence in a situation. Think of it as a rule of engagement. You decide ahead of time what behavior you will engage with and what behavior will cause you to disengage. The disengagement is not punishment. It is not a theatrical storming out. It is a simple physical law. If you speak to me in that tone, this conversation is over. If you disregard my stated decision, my presence here is withdrawn. If you bring this toxicity, I will not be in the room to receive it. The power is not in the yelling. The power is in the leaving, and you must be prepared to leave, to end the call, to walk away from the table, to let the deal collapse, to let the relationship end. If you are not prepared to do that, you do not have a boundary. You have a suggestion, and the world is full of people who love to debate suggestions. This requires a detachment from the outcome. You are not setting the boundary to get them to change. You are setting it to preserve yourself, regardless of what they do. Their reaction, the anger, the guilt-tripping, the accusations of coldness, those are tests. They are probing to see if your line is real or just chalk on pavement that can be wept or raged upon until it washes away. When you hold calmly, you are communicating in a language deeper than words. You are demonstrating that your self-respect is not a bargaining chip. It is a structural component of who you are. And here is where your emotional sovereignty is critical. You can enforce the boundary without being consumed by emotion about it. There is no heated argument, because the rule was already established. There is no personal offense, because their attempt to cross is merely data. It tells you who they are. You state the transgression plainly. You are raising your voice. I said I do not engage in shouting, and then you act. You leave the room. You end the call. The action is clean, surgical, and final. No drama, no second chances offered from a place of hope that they'll get it this time. You gave the chance when you stated the boundary. Their choice to cross it was their answer. This practice transforms your relationships. It is not about creating isolation. It is about creating clarity. The people who respect your boundaries are the people you can build with. They understand that your yes is meaningful because your no is inviolable. The others, the manipulators and the chaos agents, they will filter themselves out. They will call you difficult, rigid, cold. They will orbit the old version of you, the one whose edges were soft and malleable. They will find they can no longer land. Your space becomes quiet, orderly. And in that space, you are not building a fortress to keep people out. You are building a foundation solid enough to build something real upon. This is how you move from being a reactive force in the world to becoming a defined, sovereign presence. The line in the sand is not for them, it is for you, to know where you end and where the rest of the world begins, and to know with absolute certainty that you will defend that line not with fury, but with quiet, irrevocable action. Now you know the ground you stand on. The next step is learning to see what is truly in front of you. When your internal landscape is settled and your borders are clearly marked, a new sense sharpens. You begin to see the world not as you are told it is, but as it is. This is the lens, the shift from seeing through projection to seeing reality. Most men live in a hall of mirrors, reflections of their own hopes, fears, and the stories others paint on them. To be manipulated is to live inside someone else's story. To be free is to read the original text. Manipulation is, at its core, a narrative weapon. It tells you a story about yourself, about the situation, about what something means. If you love me, you would. That's not a statement of fact. It's a story they're writing where you are the villain. Everyone thinks you're being unreasonable. That's not data. It's a phantom audience conjured to pressure you. After all I've done for you. That's not a ledger. It's a tale of debt they are authoring in real time. For years, you may have accepted these manuscripts as truth. You fought the battles in their fictional wars. You felt the guilt for crimes defined by their law. Now, with your sovereignty, you become a historian of the present moment. You learn to separate the evidence from the interpretation. You listen less to the words and more to the architecture behind them. The tone that doesn't match the content. The sudden shift in topic when a line of questioning gets too close to the truth. The emotional outburst that seems precisely calibrated to derail a logical discussion. You see the performance, not with cynicism but with clarity. A genuine emotion has a beginning, a messy middle, and a fading end. A tactical emotion has a switch. It is turned on for effect, and it is turned off the moment it ceases to serve its purpose. You learn to watch for the flick of that switch. This is not about paranoia. It is about pattern recognition. The liar, the manipulator, the chaos bringer, they rely on a fog of feeling to obscure the facts. They spin a cloud of anger or a mist of tears or a haze of sentimental nostalgia, so you cannot see the simple, solid ground of what is actually happening. Your emotional regulation is your weather radar. It allows you to stand steady in their emotional storm and note, with detached precision, the facts they are trying to hide. The fact is you said no. The fact is they are disregarding it. The fact is they are trying to trade on a past kindness as a currency for present control. You hold these facts, clean and cold in your hand, while their drama rages around you. Their story cannot stick to you, because you are no longer wearing the costume of the character they are trying to make you play. This lens of reality grants you a profound and unsettling calm in the face of escalation. When someone moves from manipulation to threat, or to grand displays of victimhood, you see it for what it is, an admission. It is their confession that their softer tools have failed. The shouted threat is a sign they have lost the power of subtlety. The theatrical collapse into tears is a sign they have lost the power of persuasion. You see the strategy behind the suffering, and seeing it, you are unmoved. You are not denying their pain may be real to them. You are simply refusing to let their pain dictate your actions. You can acknowledge it without being recruited by it. I see you're upset, you might say. A statement of fact, not an opening for negotiation. This clarity is your greatest shield. It makes the hidden visible. It turns the subtext into text. And when you can see the wires, you cannot be convinced they are magic. You begin to operate from a place of what you know, not what you feel in response to their orchestrated pressure. Your decisions become clean, deliberate, and almost mechanical in their precision, because they are based on observable reality, not on the funhouse mirror reflections they are holding up. You are no longer a participant in their play. You are the audience, and an audience cannot be manipulated by the actors. It can only observe the performance. Now you see the stage for what it is. The next step is understanding what they are truly trying to sell you. A calm, resonant tone, steady as a heartbeat. Once your vision clears, once you see the play for what it is, you begin to notice what they are offering you for your compliance. The bribe, the currency of manipulation. It is rarely money. It is something far more intoxicating, far more addictive to the unsteady man, external validation. The promise that you will be seen, admired, needed, loved, or finally deemed enough. This is the hook in every manipulator's tackle box, and it only works if you are hungry for it. A man who is unsure of his own worth is a man with an open account. He is waiting for a deposit, for the world to tell him he is strong, he is good, he is the hero. The manipulator senses this emptiness, this silent plea, and they pose as the banker. They hold up the coin of praise, the note of affection, the bond of sexual favor, the stock of social status. Do this, they imply, and your account will be full. You will be the man you need to be, in my eyes. And for so long, perhaps, you took the deal. You performed the dance for the applause. You carried the burden for the thank you. You swallowed your truth for the promise of peace, which was really just the temporary quiet of their approval. Your journey to being unmanipulable requires a fundamental shift in your economy. You must close that external account permanently. You must become the sole issuer of your own currency. Your sense of worth, of being a man of value, cannot be a fluctuating stock traded on the market of other people's opinions. It must be a fixed asset, held in reserve deep within you. This is what it means to detach from external validation. It is not becoming a hermit, indifferent to all human connection. It is becoming so secure in your own valuation that no one can offer you a premium to betray it. This is why they call the unmanipulable man cold. It is not coldness, it is liquidity. He is not swayed by the shiny object they dangle because he has no need for it. The flattery falls flat because he already knows his own strengths and, more importantly, his own flaws. He is reconciled with them. The seduction loses its power because he does not see sex as a reward to be earned for good behavior, but as an expression of mutual desire between two whole people. The promise of inclusion in the right circle, the inner sanctum, means nothing to a man who has found his own purpose and whose circle is defined by genuine alignment, not social climbing. When you achieve this, the entire theater of incentive collapses. The love bomber showers you with affection, and you receive it calmly, appreciatively even, but it does not cloud your judgment. You do not think, at last, someone who sees me. You think, this is a significant amount of emotional investment from a stranger. I wonder what it is intended to purchase. The person who withholds affection to punish you finds they are withholding air from a man who has learned to breathe underwater. The silence does not panic you. It simply gives you space to think. The one who offers you a title, a position, a shiny badge of honor in exchange for your soul finds you are no longer in the business of selling souls. Your soul is not on the market. This detachment makes your yes infinitely more powerful and your no absolutely final. When you agree to something, it is because the action aligns with your purpose and your values, not because you are being paid in the counterfeit coin of approval. You are impossible to buy because you have removed yourself from that auction house. You are not rejecting their offerings with disdain. You are simply not a customer for that product anymore. Your needs are met internally. This is the quiet death of desperation, and in its place grows a formidable kind of strength. It is the strength of a man who is complete in himself. He can connect, he can give, he can love, but from a place of overflow, not deficit. He does not need to be needed in a toxic, draining way. He can choose to be of service from his abundance. This completeness is what makes the final, most desperate manipulations, the threats, the tantrums, the smear campaigns, so utterly futile. They are trying to bankrupt a man who has moved his wealth to a different kingdom entirely. They have nothing left to offer you. And in that realization, you hold all the power. Now you are no longer a customer in their market. The final skill is learning the art of the silent response. When they have nothing left to offer you, when their stories fail to land and their currency is worthless in your economy, they will resort to one final, universal pressure. They will demand your reaction. They will poke, prod, insult, threaten, cry, or collapse, all to elicit a specific response from you. Anger, guilt, reassurance, compliance. They need you to step onto their stage and play your part in their script. Your most powerful move at that moment is to refuse to perform. This is the mastery of the pause. It is the deliberate, agonizingly patient insertion of silence between their provocation and your answer. For most men, this is the hardest discipline. We are wired for action. We are conditioned to solve, to fix, to answer, to defend. When challenged, our biology screams for resolution, fight or flight. The manipulator knows this. They rely on it. Their entire technique is built to trigger that impulsive circuitry, to bypass your reason and hook directly into your reaction. They want you heated. They want you emotional. They want you in the flood of adrenaline, where logic drowns and old patterns take over. In that state, you are predictable. You are controllable. The pause is the refusal of that hijacking. It is you reclaiming the timeline. It is not a moment of confusion. It is a conscious, willful act of restraint. It is you standing at the edge of the cliff of reaction and choosing not to jump. You let their words hang in the air. You let their emotional display play out before you, like watching a storm through a window. You feel the heat rise in your own blood, the old script forming on your tongue, and you simply do not speak. You breathe into the silence you have created. This silence is not empty. It is the most potent space you will ever occupy. In that space, several critical things happen. First, their provocation, deprived of the fuel of your reaction, begins to gutter and die. An outburst without an audience is just noise. A guilt trip without a recipient is just words. The silence reflects their tactic back at them, naked and absurd. Second, it gives you the only thing you truly need in a conflict: time. Time for the chemical surge to recede, time for your prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason and discernment, to come back online. Time to consult your own boundaries, your own reality, your own internal compass, rather than being swept away by their current. This pause is where you transition from being a reactor to being an author. Instead of your next words being the next line in their play, they become the first line in your response. A response you choose. It could be a simple, factual statement. That is not an accurate way to describe what happened. It could be a boundary delivered with ice-cold calm. If you continue to speak to me like that, this conversation is over. It could be a simple, devastating question. What is it you hope to achieve by saying that? Or it could be nothing at all. The pause might extend into a permanent silence as you turn and walk away. The conversation already concluded in your mind. Mastering this pause requires you to be comfortable with discomfort. The manipulator will hate this silence. They will try to fill it with more pressure, more accusation, more drama. Well, aren't you going to say anything? They will interpret your calm as weakness, your silence as confusion. Let them. Their interpretation is not your concern. Your only concern is maintaining sovereignty over your own words and actions. You are learning that you do not have to answer every charge. You do not have to defend against every arrow. You can. Let most of them clatter harmlessly against the armor of your stillness. This is not passive. It is the most active form of control, self-control. It is the difference between a firework which explodes spectacularly at the touch of a spark and is then gone, and the deep ocean, which absorbs the impact of the largest stone without a ripple on its distant surface. Your power is no longer in the explosion. It is in the depth that makes the explosion irrelevant. When you master the pause, you master the rhythm of every interaction. You set the tempo. You force the world to wait for you. And in that waiting, you find the clarity to choose the path that is yours, and yours alone. This control of the clock leads to the only thing worth building with the time you have left. When the silence after your pause stretches out, and the echoes of their failed provocations fade, you are left in a new kind of quiet. It is not the quiet of absence, of something missing. It is the quiet of a cleared space. The dust has settled. The static has been tuned out. The draining, endless background noise of other people's dramas, demands, and narratives, it is gone. And in that profound quiet, you hear the only sound that has ever truly mattered, the steady, undeniable pulse of your own purpose. This is the outcome. This is the freedom. It is not the freedom from something, though that is a byproduct. It is not merely freedom from manipulation, from guilt, from chaos. Those are just the removal of shackles. The true outcome is the freedom to build, to focus, to become. All the energy, the mental real estate, the emotional bandwidth you once spent on deciphering motives, navigating minefields, managing unstable egos, and wrestling with the anxiety of disapproval, that energy is now returned to you. It is capital that has been repatriated, and capital seeks investment. This is where you am from defense to creation. You are no longer a fortress under siege. You are an architect on open land. Your purpose is no longer a vague idea you daydream about when exhausted from people-pleasing. It becomes the central organizing principle of your life. It is the thing you measure all requests, all opportunities, all relationships against. Does this serve my purpose? Does this align with the man I am building? That question becomes your compass. And because you are emotionally sovereign, you can answer it without sentimentality. Because your boundaries are clear, you can say no to even good things that are distractions from the essential. Because you see reality, you can assess your progress without illusion. Because you are not bribed by validation, you can take the lonely, unapplauded steps that true missions require. And because you master the pause, every step is deliberate. Your relationships transform. They are no longer transactions of need or exercises in management. The manipulators, the vampires, the chaos bringers, They have filtered themselves out. They found no purchase, no reward, no drama, and they moved on to easier targets. What remains are connections based on mutual respect, aligned values, or genuine affinity. You are not surrounded by people because you need an audience. You are accompanied by those who respect the mission because you have shown them, through your unshakable calm, that you respect it first. You become a man defined by what he is for, not by what he is against. This focus brings a clarity that can seem ruthless to the outside world. You will decline invitations. You will miss gatherings. You will end conversations that drift into futility. You will protect your time, your attention, and your peace with a vigilance that was once reserved for the feelings of others. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship. You are the steward of your one life, your one potential. To squander it reacting to the whims of others is the true sin, and in this state, you achieve a paradox. By becoming immovable to manipulation, by becoming, in a sense, more rigid, you actually become more powerful and more free. Your power is no longer the brittle, performative power of dominance. It is the resilient, quiet power of integrity. It is the power of a man whose word, to himself and to others, is law. Your freedom is not the childish freedom to do whatever you feel in the moment. It is the adult freedom to choose your obligations, to design your life around a central pillar of meaning that you erected yourself. This is the final, unassailable position. They cannot reach you with guilt, for you have made peace with your past choices. They cannot tempt you with praise, for you have your own measure. They cannot rush you with pressure, for you have mastered time. They cannot confuse you with stories, for you have learned to read the facts. You are, for the first time, truly at home within yourself. And from that home, you can finally build a life that is not a reaction to the world, but a contribution to it, on your own terms, with your own hands, and with a quiet strength that nothing and no one can ever take from you. The unmanipulable man is not a prisoner of his own defenses. He is the master of his own destiny.